Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to these other events that will happen by 2093, and yeah, probably not another positive one. This channel seems to be very negative, but hey, I guess you need some of that in your life, you know. You can't always have it all positive, especially when the world's as dark as it is. But no, this channel is quite pessimistic to say the least. I react to it quite often, but yeah, I enjoy these types of videos because I guess it's like predicting things but based off possibilities on like things that are happening, and it's obviously not guaranteed, but it's all possibilities, and I think they're going to be the worst possibilities, just so you know, because again, this channel is quite, it does look on the negative side for sure, but again, maybe sometimes you do need that, you know, like you can't always have it positive, because then you're going to be, I don't know, thinking everything's all okay when it's not. But yeah, I don't know, this is to do with sperms. God damn, we're getting into the deep stuff, but yeah, hopefully going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more of my videos, music reactions, TV series reactions, YouTube reactions that I can't post and all that. But yeah, links are there for those interested. But let's jump into this and get into some of these topics. I'm going to assume this is something to do with like changing the DNA or changing the cells to make them a certain way. I don't know what the word is called, but it's basically just changing a certain thing to make sure it's not got a certain illness or something, I think. Is that what it is?
From your sperm developing two heads to running out of drinking
Maybe not, I was just rambling for nothing.
water, genetically engineered superviruses, nuclear war, and trillions of jellyfish. The next 100 years really aren't looking good for humanity. And here's just a few of the reasons the world population will plummet by 80% over the next century.
What's that
Beginning
Trump
with the
picture?
growing crisis of fertility rates. You see, sperm counts in men across the world have dropped by over 50% in just 50 years, from an average of over 100 million per milliliter to just 49 million. And now for context, anything under 50 million makes conception incredibly difficult. And with this decline speeding up -2% every single year, more and more men risk infertility. Now, BPA and other plastics have been shown to massively interfere with hormone levels during pregnancy, which often leads to low testosterone and deformed sperms. This is why for the first time in history, our sperm is now having deformities like two tails or the wrong amount of heads, making your own sperm unable to function properly. Which is why over the next few decades, you're going to see more and more of your friends and family unable to ever have a child of their own. By 2025, average sperm counts will have slipped below the healthy minimum, and then as this trend continues, they'll have reached zero by 2049. This crisis is going to get much worse in the run-up to 2030, which feeds directly into the next massive problem humanity faces, the collapse of the traditional family structure.
So
now, regardless of whether it's a symptom of
sperm cells having two heads, it's a positive start, and men not being able to not even bring life, give life, whatever the term is. And now we're talking about family structures. I told you, you're in for a wild ride with these videos. It's not going to be good.
Societal progression or moral degradation, it's the fact that couples are having children much later on in life. Because in Western society, we're now placing careers, power, success, and money over happy family units. And that's why the worldwide average of how many children a woman will have has now dropped significantly in just the past half century, from over 5 to just...
But isn't that kind of a good thing in terms of not overrunning the population? There's obviously going to be some negative side effects because you've got so many people. You're going to need more people to work and all this stuff. But in terms of the earth, I don't know, maybe I don't know the in-depth details, but in terms of the earth, maybe the fact that that's going down isn't the biggest problem. But hey, who am I to talk? I'm not an expert, as you can 100% tell. But yeah,
2.4, and in many Western countries, most women aren't even having kids anymore. Japan, the UK, America all face population collapse. Because as countries get richer, this problem just becomes worse and worse. Singapore, for example, has a birth rate of just 1.3 on average, not nearly enough to sustain its population. By 2030, there will be over 1 million less children in the UK and over 1 million more pensioners. And the consequences for these countries is a much heavier burden on young people to support the old, which just pushes the birth rate even lower as a result. Over the 2030s, the damage this has done will be plain to see. People cite education and contraception as the root cause of this, but this really isn't the full picture at all. And this leads on to one of the main problems that generate...
That's crazy, right? Contraception stops people having kids. It shows how many accidents there really are. That probably is the case, though. It does just go to show how many accidental pregnancies that there are, like mistakes and stuff.
Faces. You see nearly 30% of young men who have had their testosterone and sperm destroyed, haven't even had relations.
I did not think we were going to be getting into this stuff.
with a woman since they turned 18, triple what it was just 10 years ago. These hollow digital replacements for real human contact are partly to blame, as they are physically changing the brains of Generation Z and help sweeten the bitter pill of loneliness for a long time. But this is just the start. With ChatGPT and AI on the rise, new AI girlfriends and boyfriends will be the next level of this, as how could real people hope to compete with design perfection? But online dating is also a massive factor. Today's young men have to compete with thousands of others now. Instead of just competing with the 6 other men in your tribe, you've now got to compete with thousands of people, all who are desperate for any woman they can get, leading to an ever-increasing inequality in the dating marketplace, where 80% of the women only want to date 20% of the men. I mean, at the rates we're seeing today, it's no exaggeration to say that half of all young men will be out of the dating pool by around 2040, with the incel population growing immeasurably. And this is because with our societal progression,
I did not think we were getting into these topics. We're talking about incels and stuff.
people are being taught that bringing up a children is just a burden, and that sex is just something to be casual. But these changes in dating and the decline in the family are just one part of the puzzle here. Instead, the true population decline will come from catastrophic disasters and new dark technologies. The 2040s and beyond will be when our advanced technology truly gets dangerous. This video is brought to you by Manscaped.
Getting his money too. It's good to see. I mean, these videos get demonetized, so it definitely needs this stuff to fund it. Oh god, what's happened here? What's happened to my Wi-Fi? Hello? The fuck?
Disturbing possibilities. Ray Kurzweil, Google's director of engineering, predicts that we're going to reach AI singularity by 2045. But what does that even mean? Well, as AI improves, it will quickly reach human levels of intelligence, and then beyond.
That's
but
a
if an
deep
AI
fake.
gains sentience and the ability to continually improve on
Not
its own
AI.
code, it will eventually create a loop of accelerating intelligence that will catapult it far past our levels of understanding. And at that point, it's impossible to predict what AI will do next. And that's why Google's recent study with Oxford University now states that there's a 10% chance AI will wipe out humanity. And these are the people who are creating it saying this. A super intelligent AI is incredibly likely to see us as an existential threat, seeking to wipe humans from the face of the earth before we can ever turn it off. Nietzsche foresaw this when he talked about the concept of the Übermensch, where he argued that the Übermensch, or in other words AI, is where morality ultimately leads. AI is the pinnacle of morality, not humanity, as AI serves as a moral standard and a source of law for humans. But as Nietzsche
Thing is though, AI recently has been going absolutely insane. Like, it's just hit a whole new level recently where like everything just seems to be advancing 10 times quicker. And it is quite wild how AI is so powerful and it can do so many things. And I mean, it's still the early stages. Imagine what 10, 20 years it's going to be like. It makes a lot of things easier for humans, I guess, because it does all the work. But at the same time, you don't know what's going to happen. It could advance to a point you don't know. At the end of the day, it's an unseen territory, so you're not sure.
also argued and thus spoke Zarathustra, AI also lacks what makes you human in the first place. For Nietzsche, people are defined by a relationship between order and chaos, and AI would be entirely governed by order. But without the chaos of desire, emotion, and impulse, it would never be inhibited, which is why it will inevitably overtake humanity.
What
And so
the
to stop this
fuck?
one-dimensional threat of
Is that
AI,
real?
which is why it will inevitably
It's literally following his finger.
overtake humanity. And so to stop this one-dimensional threat of AI, we need to have much stricter controls on its development before it's too late. It will be in the 2050s or possibly earlier that a sentient AI capable of ending civilization could be created. But you see, the threat of AI wiping out humanity is just a 10% chance here. The real threat from AI comes from how society would deal with how many of us it's going to replace in the future.
Jobs.
Just like in the Industrial Revolution, the displacement of millions of people from their livelihoods will cause massive social upheavals. You see, it was the Industrial Revolution that led to the rise of extremist ideologies and the subsequent world wars. And the AI revolution is just going to be so much larger. Whole industries will be made obsolete once their jobs are perfected by AI. Jobs like drivers, bankers, doctors, lawyers, pushing hundreds of millions to billions into unemployment by 2050. And once that hits society, the resulting ideological extremism and wars will be far larger and more destructive than anything we've ever seen before. But humans don't just need to worry about what's happening in the future. The way that we abuse our own natural resources today is going to cost us dearly. You see, while most types of poverty have gotten significantly better over the past century, water shortages are expected to significantly worsen. By 2050, the latest UN prediction states that over 5 billion people will face severe
Flipping
water
hell.
shortages. And it'll only get so much worse from there. Fresh water levels simply can't keep up with increased demand. Without the continued development of innovations in converting seawater or other solutions into pure water, countries like Brazil and India in particular will be dealing with perpetual droughts. This in turn would devastate crop yields, causing massive famines and significant reductions in population, not to mention global wars surrounding this issue. That's why the massive droughts that we're seeing today will be nothing compared to what's going to happen in the 2060s and beyond. And you see, it's not just fresh water we need to worry about. The oceans are going to be significantly changing over the next century, as human waste is making them more acidic, the oxygen levels are changing, and the nature is being infested with plastics. All of this plus massive increases in fishing has decimated our ocean ecosystems, leaving the door open to other forms of life like jellyfish. Now, jellyfish aren't as affected by pollution. In fact, they're now starting to thrive as we remove their main predators. And by 2080, they may be all that's left in the ocean. Studies now predict that our abuse of the oceans is going to leave 70%
Can we eat jellyfish? Is that a possibility?
of them without enough oxygen to sustain fish populations, making the famines we're already predicting even worse. And so if we ruin the planet and wipe ourselves out, the jellyfish will be one of the main things left to inherit the Earth. And as crazy as this sounds, it's predicted that by 2070, real fish will have become a luxury product, only affordable for the top 1%, the rest of us being left with nothing but
That would be crazy. I mean, I don't know the actual chance of that, but it's all there. You got to take it into consideration.
jellyfish. What these giant corporations do for the top 1%, the rest of us being left with nothing but jellyfish.
Oh, whoa, that looks flipping disgusting.
What these giant corporations are doing to the planet right now is going to affect every aspect of nature, not just the oceans. And we're already starting to see the destabilizing effects it's having. Recent natural disasters like floods and wildfires have been getting so much more common because of how quickly the climate is changing. And this is disrupting weather patterns, making some of the world hotter and drier whilst having the opposite effect in other parts of the world. And these kinds of disasters cost the US alone nearly $150 billion, twice what it was just the year before. And the result is that the world will be assaulted by disaster after disaster, which just compounds to make everything that we've already spoken about even more hard to deal with. It's predicted that by 2080, extreme weather events will be happening at least 4 times as much as today. And today, they're already an everyday occurrence, which is why it's possible that giant cities like London and Miami may be wiped out in the very near future. But to be honest, the most dangerous...
See, that's so weird because you always hear about this and you always hear it and you think, okay, well, this is just there to scare you. I mean, you kind of consider it, but at the same time, you're like, London's not going to become flooded. It's not going to flood all the cities. But if it's rising, you don't actually know. It's such a weird concept to comprehend because... I guess there would be measures to protect countries, right? They'll probably put things up to stop certain things happening, but yeah, you don't know, man. You don't know. It's such a weird concept. Imagine like you sort of have my mindset, and this isn't my mindset. This is just sort of what I sometimes think is like, oh, this isn't going to happen. This city's not going to get flooded. This isn't going to happen. There's not going to be droughts, but or like not droughts. There's obviously droughts all the time, but to that level, 5 billion people not having water, but we don't know. And then it goes 30, 40 years time and it's exactly what they predicted. So it's just like that, you know.
The rest of the world are completely man-made. Despite social media sites banning people and censoring anyone who mentions it, authorities are now being forced to recognize that COVID was almost certainly leaked from a laboratory. With genetic tampering technology getting more and more advanced, the next viral weapon outbreak will be so much worse. This might be the most dangerous thing to humanity. Already.
That is so scary, man. What the fuck? What are you doing making fucking viruses, you idiots? Just fucking hell. So dumb.
These scientists and labs have made things like mousepox, a man-made disease that killed almost 100% of mice it was tested on. Something like this leaking out of a laboratory could almost certainly wipe out entire populations. But already natural diseases are getting so much more dangerous. Because of how many antibiotics are thrown at people and livestock, bacterial resistance to them has drastically increased. These superbugs are becoming impervious to modern medicine, meaning we could easily see the return of diseases like tuberculosis, cholera, and even the plague. And for reference, the Black Death killed 30 to 50% of Europe when it took hold. And so if you take into consideration the idea of mousepox and these new superbugs, an engineered disease in our ultra-globalized world could be incredibly devastating, which is why by at least 2090, it will be very possible for rogue organizations and terrorists to develop these kinds of weapons, which
I'll probably be gone by this point. So I'll be missing this, but it's not looking good for the rest of you. You 1-year-olds, people that are 1 year old now or whatever, you're not watching this video, but have fun when this is happening.
is undoubtedly the biggest existential threat for humankind. And so with all of these things in mind, it would be a miracle if the world escapes without a major conflict in the next 100 years. But as we all know, it's very likely that we will see one in this next century. Now, previous wars always led to millions of deaths, but with the destructive power of over a century of weapons development, the next total world war will be a lot worse. Now, a nuclear war might not end humanity or even civilization as a whole, but but it could have an awful effect on the population, and the resulting nuclear winter might kill more people than the conflict itself. Years or even decades of a
I'd be screwed. I got asthma. I got all this. I mean, most people would be
blackened
screwed,
atmosphere.
but most people would be screwed. But like, certain people would be more screwed. Someone with asthma is not doing well in this environment.
Radiation would destroy the agricultural system, meaning the world simply just wouldn't be able to sustain a large population. Not to mention wiping out entire cities across the world. The energy grid would turn off, the water would be poisoned, and this would be the most likely way that the world population would dramatically fall.
I told you, it's very negative, very pessimistic, bit dramatic, but it's all theory, you know. Every week I get a new existential crisis from Moon's videos. We're facing a human extinction level event, but first, let's thank our sponsors. You gotta get your money, man. You gotta get your money. Moon 4 days ago be like, a common criticism of this channel is that it's too depressing and that there's never a solution to problems that we talk about. After reflecting, this will change. Moon today, humanity will be wiped out. 2100. What did he reply with? Next video, this video was made a while before the community post, but was demonetized, so I didn't post it. Ah, fair enough. But yeah, there we go. I mean, it's all interesting. You don't know. Maybe it's not going to be all too negative, but yeah, it's just a video at the end of the day. You don't know. Some of these you definitely got to take into, like, you got to take them and sort of, I don't know, hope it doesn't happen, plan for it to not happen. But yeah, I did say it's going to be a pretty depressing video. But yeah, if you want more of this stuff, let me know in the comments. And until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.